Hey, it's Lauren Ohayon, and in today's video, I am going to show you how to do a deadlift if you have a prolapse or a diastasis recti. I am not saying I think everyone who has a prolapse or diastasis should be doing deadlifts. I'm saying that if you are doing them, here's what you want to know. We're going to talk first about your form, and then we're going to talk about your core engagement strategy. So with the form, what I see most often happening, well, let me show you a deadlift, right? So in a deadlift, we're bending at our hips a little bit, bending at our knees a little bit, grabbing onto something heavy. It can be a bar or weights or a kettlebell. And we're coming up, and then we're just going down and up. What I see happening often with this is that people lack the hamstring ability. They lack the length in their legs to be able to untuck their booty. And what they end up doing is this. So they end up coming up and down. Or they start off great, but then they get to here and there's no more ability for this to move, so they round their back here. Okay, so you really want to be mindful of that. That's really important. The other thing I see happening a lot, especially on the way up, is this thrusting activity. Okay, so I know a lot of coaches recommend to thrust. I am not a big fan of the thrust at all. I don't see the point. A lot of people will say it's for hip extension. Your hips are not really extending when you do that. There's a whole anatomical reason. I won't get into it here, but feel free to ask me about it in the comments. So we really want to think about driving through the legs, both on the way up and on the way down. So your form is, you don't want your knees here. It's not a big deal, but I'm more of a fan of trying to keep the knees well aligned over the feet. They can come forward a little bit. And then when we're talking about your core strategy, that's the most important part. And what I see a lot of people do is as they lift whatever it is that's heavy up, they bulge their core forward. So their abdominals push forward, right? And that's exactly what you don't want to be doing if you have a prolapse or a pelvic floor issue, diastasis. So you really want to think about this. Exhaling, your abdominals draw in. If you cannot maintain that on your lift up and down, the load is too heavy. So you go up and down, exhaling, exhale, exhale, exhale. Your abdominals are drawing in, not pushing out. So, and it's going to be very hard to access your abdominals correctly if you're rounding here, tucking here. So the first thing is to make sure that you've got this mobility in your legs. If you don't come down to the floor. You put something under whatever it is that you're lifting. You just don't go all the way down. So maybe your starting point is here, and you're just doing this. What I recommend all of my clients to do before they do any form of deadlifting or barbelling and stuff like that is to video themselves and watch it. Because you might think you're doing one thing, and then you watch a video and you're like, oh, snap. I really lose my form. My pelvic tucks under. My back rounds, I lose all of my form. And so those are the deadlift tips. I love deadlifting. I'm a fan, but you've got to have your form and your core strategy in really good place.